friends, it's Kate from the Fletcher Free Library, and I'm back again to do another experiment with you. Pretty excited about this. I'm super excited that it's spring, finally. I waited 6 months, and this week is Unicorn Appreciation Day on Thursday. So I know you might not watch this video during the week of Unicorn Appreciation, but if you know me, you know that it's a big deal at the library and I'm missing out on all the fun activities. So I thought I would do an experiment with you called Walking Rainbows. But going back to Unicorn Appreciation Day, if you don't get a chance to celebrate on Thursday, you can really do it any day, okay? Because we all need rainbows and unicorns in our life right now. So it's definitely spring here, and in fact I heard on the radio yesterday from VPR that we are 2 weeks ahead of schedule. And one of the things that I do naturally when I'm out walking Bernie or out with my family is look for signs of spring, and I've noticed a lot of things, and I'm wondering if you've been noticing too. Maybe take a second and think about what things you might be seeing outside. I'll get a drink while you do that. So when I've been walking, I've noticed that we have more birds returning, and some of them have even been flying around with stuff in their mouth to build nests. What else have I noticed? I've noticed there's been more tracks in the mud because it's kind of mud season too. I've noticed some flowers coming up and buds starting to pop out on the trees. Those are all good signs of spring. And so that all led me, spring, the sun, unicorn, appreciation, all led me to thinking about trees and how terrific trees are. So I know it sounds a little weird to be excited for trees, but trees are really busy right now in the spring. Can you think about some of the things that might be happening with trees in the spring? Why don't you stop, talk about it with your family for a minute, and the next slide we'll talk about it together. So right now trees are giving sap for maple syrup. Birds are looking at trees for nest building, and the roots of the trees are taking up water now that the ground is not frozen. And finally, leaves are starting to come out. Lots of good stuff happening. So there's one kind of tree that is super famous at this time of year. Can you think of what that tree is? It's the end of winter, beginning of spring. It's a really important tree here in Vermont. I'll give you a hint. This is what the leaf looks like in the summer. And in the fall, it turns lots of beautiful colors like red and yellow and orange. Do you know what it is? It's a maple tree. The most important one is the sugar maple, but other maples are important too. But sugar maples are really big in Vermont right now. And do you know why? Do you know what the sugar maples are doing right now? Take a minute and think about it. So I know I said at the beginning of this video that we were going to do an experiment called Walking Rainbows, and you're probably wondering why I'm spending all this time talking about trees and what trees and rainbows have to do with one another. So there is a connection, and it's called Capillary Action, and we're getting there. But first I want to talk about trees a little more because they are pretty terrific and neat things are happening now. So remember we said it was early spring, and right now we are tapping the maple trees for their sap. And so what happens with maple trees is in the spring and summer when they have leaves, their leaves are making food for the tree. So that's called photosynthesis, and the tree is storing all these sugars inside, okay? So that's happening in the spring, in the summer, all the way until the trees leave the tree, which is, or not the trees don't leave the tree, the leaves leave the tree. So that happens all spring and all summer. And right now in the spring, before the trees have leaves, as the weather gets warm, and it's warm during the day and cold at night, the sap in the tree thaws out and it starts to come out of the branches. So the saps and the sugars that the tree saved all year are coming out of the branches into the tree, and we tap the tree to get that sweet sap out of the tree. So that's happening right now, and it's very exciting because it means we're going to have fresh maple syrup. So let's see, what else do we need to know about these trees? Okay, so we're getting to capillary action. Okay, so hold on to that thought, capillary action. So let's talk about the science for a couple minutes. I'm going to flip this camera and show you something that I made to help explain this. So capillary action is pretty neat, and we're going to get to see it happening in the experiment we do in a couple minutes. But let's go back. So capillary action means that a liquid, like water, moves up without any help. So it gets forced into a small space and moves up. So that's the basics of it. And here's how it works in plants. So, you know, plants have roots, and then they have a stem or a stalk, and then they have leaves. So there's water down in the ground in the roots. The water gets sucked up into the roots through capillary action. And that means that the plants have a layer inside them of natural material. It's called xylem. It's kind of like a tube around the plant. And in that tube, the water will stick together and push itself up the plant using capillary action. So there's no outside force doing it. It's all the plant cells and water sticking together and forcing themselves up the plant, which seems kind of magical to me. You might have seen xylem if you ever saw a cross-section of a tree. When you cut a tree and you see the rings, each of those layer of rings is a layer of xylem. And every year, new xylem grows, and it takes up water and minerals all year long, and then it dies, and that's how you get a ring. And then the next year, new tree grows. Your tree gets bigger every year, which is pretty cool. So we're going to see capillary action and work with our walking rainbows experiment. And then I'm going to give you some other ideas of some other plant experiments you could do too, if you like. So now that we know a little bit more about capillary action and how it works in plants, let's get set up for our walking rainbows experiment. Here are the materials you'll need, and why don't you take a couple minutes to get them all together. Here's what the setup looks like for our walking rainbows. Okay, we're ready to make some walking rainbows, where we're going to show you what capillary action looks like. So this is a little hard to see, but I have 7 cups, and I've put them into a rainbow shape, like a half circle here, right? So I've got 7 cups, and I've got some food coloring here, and I've got some water to fill up my cups, and then I have a bunch of paper towels. And I'm going to show you what to do with these so that we can start our experiment. So let's start with folding the paper towel. I'm going to fold it in half long ways, like that, and then I'm going to fold it again so that it is folded in quarters. So it looks like this. Ta-da! And then I'm going to fold it in half again, like this, and then I'm going to test it in my cups. I want it to touch the bottom, but I don't want it to stick up too much. So this one's too high. I'm going to cut it off a little. So I'm going to cut it down. I'm going to try it again. Let's see. Oh, that's a lot better. So it's just sticking up a little. Okay, so I'm going to do that for all of my 6 paper towels and get that ready. And why don't you do that too? I'll take a break right now. Okay, here we go. So I've got all my paper towels folded and ready to go. I'm going to put them on the side. And I've got my food coloring. Unfortunately, I have neon food coloring, so my colors are probably going to be a little different than yours. But that's what I had at home, so that's what I'm going to use. So I've got a red, a yellowish, and a blue. So what we're first going to do is we're going to fill every other cup with water. Actually, we're only going to put about a half cup. So it's going to look like this. And you don't have to be really precise with the measuring. I've got about half a cup there. So I'm going to do that with the first one, and the third one, and the fifth one. Hey, I'm counting by 2s. And the 7th one. And so I've got about a half cup. And to these cups, I'm going to add food coloring. The first one, I'm going to add some red. So I'm going to do, add like 8 drops of red. And then I'm going to do yellow in the 3rd cup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's kind of a yellow-green, but it's what I have. And then in the 5th cup, I'm going to do blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's looking good. And in the last cup, I'm going to do red again. Think about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I have all my cups set up with food coloring. And you can mix them if you want to. It'll probably mix itself, but mixing is fun. But you're going to want to use a different spoon to mix each one because you don't want to mix up the colors at this point. Okay, so we have our rainbow of cups, and you're going to notice the cups in between are empty. There's a reason for that. Okay, so before we stick our paper towels in, I want you to think about what might happen if we stick our paper towel in one cup with colored water and the other cup is empty. Okay, remember this is called Walking Rainbows, and it's about capillary action. So we said in trees, it means that water likes to stick together and it likes to climb up through the plant walls. Okay? So this is going to be kind of like what happens in a tree or a plant. The water likes to stick together and it likes to climb. So what do you think is what's gonna climb here? Could be these paper towels. So let's see what happens. We're gonna start by putting them in. And then the second one is gonna go between the empty cup and the green cup. And then the next one is gonna go between the green cup and the empty cup. Can you see it's kind of like walking around the rainbow? And then these are going to go in, and you want the paper to touch on the bottom. And then this one is going to go like this. Woohoo! Okay, and I have paper towels in each one. So I want you to be thinking about this. What do you think you're going to see? We're going to have to let this sit for a little, but you should be watching it the whole time to see what's happening and see if you can see capillary action happening. Okay? You keep looking. I'll be back. Okay, this is what it's looking like. We're in about 2 minutes in. This is our first official observation. What do you notice? What's going on with the paper towels? So now we're about 5 minutes in, and I don't know if yours look like mine, but I notice that the red is climbing out and it's actually starting to round the top here. And in the yellow, look at this. The yellow is climbing on both sides, and this one is rounded the top into the next cup. And same with the blue. I wonder what's going to happen when the colors meet in the empty cup. I want you to be thinking about that. What do you predict is going to happen? Now would be a good time to make a prediction so that when it does happen, you'll have made a good guess. So we're going to stop back in another 5 or 10 minutes to see where it is. So things are still moving by capillary action, but we're not finished yet. I think it may take a couple hours for everything to stop moving and changing. So you might be checking back during the day to see what's happening. I'm not going to show you the final result because you're going to get to see it yourself, and I can't wait for you to take some pictures and show us what you did. In the meantime, the next slide has some other things you might try with some flowers or some vegetables. You could try with vegetables too. So you can basically remake this same experiment using actual plants so that the colored water is moving up through their xylem. So have fun with it. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Happy rainbow making and happy Unicorn Appreciation Day.